I I can't remember exactly when I began reading a lot, but I know is like the most reading I got done was like during this time where I was just curious, and I'd been going to Borders, which was around the corner from me. Every once in a while, I'd drive there and just like go to the martial arts, outdoors, whatever section where all the fitness books would be, and like scour them. This really tiny thing, like I don't know. I mean, it's for like freaks, and I'd just see what they were like about, see the conflicting voices. Because if you read these books, if you pick up like a handful of them, they each seem to have like a different voice, and they might like have like this conflicting information, and it was really difficult to first decipher which was the correct voice. So, I remember buying a couple of them, and just a lot of them had a lot of pictures because they were like Iron Man magazine compilations, and they had these ridiculous pictures of like Paul DeMeo, Ronnie Coleman. Those are the only two names that like they really had all over the place. I think Flex Wheeler had a lot of stuff on there, and there's a couple women. I can't remember their names though, and they looked like women. They weren't like ridiculous. I don't think they were figure competitors though. I think they were just more like old school bodybuilders who hadn't like exceeded 200 pounds yet. So I'd read those and check out all the old school wisdom that they professed. And I remember going on bodybuilding.com and like reading stuff on the forums that were like, they were like articles posted as messages on the forum. But what's funny, they were very enticing because they had a really like absolute nature about them. Like, this is the way, and if you do this, it will be magical. Funny thing, the articles that I read as these posts that were the most influential on me were all taken from T Nation and like reposted on bodybuilding.com. So T Nation is this their motto's unapologetic muscle building elitists. Is that it? So I think that is a good summary, but it's like the haven, well, at least one haven of just extremely hardcore, devoted, serious strength athletes of various disciplines, bodybuilding being one of them, and they a lot of them have a very cerebral approach to the whole thing, where they're not just playing around and trying this and trying that. They want to know why. They realize the body works in specific ways, and you can detect patterns, and they want to know, everything they possibly can. Not caring how scientific it gets or whatever, and a lot of them even have degrees and such in biochemistry and whatever, so it's pretty legit collection of these freaks. So I'd read these things, and I remember one of them was like, I think it was an article written by TC called like top 10 or top 20 superfoods. So I took this to heart, and I was like, I knew bodybuilders like ate certain foods, and I knew there was something to it. I didn't really know much of what or why. So I was like, alright, well, these foods sound like things that I don't normally eat, so maybe they're magical. And so I think that was around the time when I started checking out, what was in my cupboards, and just like often in my cupboards, and seeing the stuff that I could get that was already there. But with all these foods, I tried getting my parents to like buy some for me, but I was far too frustrated, so I eventually just started doing my own shopping, which was one of the best things that I ever did. And I developed this extremely uh, black and white, like elitist attitude right away to these food sources as I marched through the supermarket and analyze each thing, and I would look at these foods and assess them, and I'd be like, this is obviously garbage, and anyone who has this in their in their cart should be shot. And because I didn't know a whole lot back then, my the variety of foods that I ate was fairly small. I had the same breakfast every day for a year and a half. I'd have a half cup of oats and water. I think it was always water. And then 2 or 3 eggs with a half cup or whatever of egg whites. So the 2 or 3 yolks in the egg whites, and then that scrambled up with fat-free mozzarella cheese sprinkled on it with hot sauce. And that's when I discovered hot sauce, and hot sauce is magic. With that whole elitist attitude of wanting to have only the best things and eating the best things, I definitely brainwashed myself into the discipline that I have today. Because back then, it didn't even matter. I was just all about the results and trying these things that I hadn't tried before, because I believed that there was a chance that they would steer me on, right in the right direction. I even remember one of the best examples. I remember I was at there's some assembly thing at my high school. I think all the seniors had to gather because the rest of the school had to take some tests, and my friend, who ironically is of similar mindset regarding the body as me today, back then he had munchkins that day, the little donuts from Dunkin' Donuts, and he offered me one, and I was like, no. And he knew what I was about back then, and he was like, it's just a munchkin, it's not going to hurt you. And I was like, I know it's just a single munchkin, it's not going to hurt me, but it's the principle that, if I let one in, where does it end? So I was completely black and white. I felt back then I had to prove to myself that I could just do it, and without any justifications or excuses or whatever. With regards to, those Iron Man magazines, all the pictures were of bodybuilders. None of them were of strongmen or anything, and I was really impressed with what I began to see bodybuilders as, and to me it's this incredible discipline. I always associated discipline with martial arts, and even though I haven't been active in martial arts, I have a bit of a bias, and I completely believe that bodybuilders have the hardest discipline of anyone ever. And I also really like the whole aspect of, whereas team sports, you could be on your A game and still lose a match or whatever because the rest of your team didn't have it together, or the other team was just better, or something like that. Whereas bodybuilding, it's a one-on-one, or not a one-on-one, it's one on yourself sort of thing. And you only have yourself to blame. You're completely responsible for everything, and you are able to have complete control. And the way the body is, you can't cheat. You maybe bend the rules a little bit in a football match, in a football game or whatever, where a ref makes a call that's disputed or something like that, and there might be some argument as to who won, or they only won because of this. But with bodybuilding, you can't cheat the body in terms of getting it bigger and stronger. So if you see a person who's just absolutely massive or is lifting obscene amounts of weight, unless they were just genetically predispositioned to get that way, which is, I mean, there's a point where you can't just be genetically amazing. Because I've seen a few kids in my school who, they're just lean all the time, and they had a really thick muscular build, even though they didn't really do a whole lot. Speaking of which, I always wanted to get past the point where people would know that, I put the work in, and I wasn't just born this way. But since you can't cheat, if you see a person with such lean muscularity, then it's kind of like this external badge of what you've done. Upon a time, I probably might have thought the steroids were cheating when I didn't understand a whole lot about them. But a more updated understanding of them was that the people who use them, the people who use them and are of the level to have their use be deemed more appropriate, they're the ones who are working harder than the people who aren't using them, because that's what they allow them to do, to work harder, to recover more quickly and more thoroughly, and to get back into pushing themselves more frequently. I was watching an interview with Dave Tate, and he said something that made a lot of sense to me, and he referred to steroids as being your ace card, and that if you went from not using them to using them, whatever else you're doing, your diet, your training, your recovery modalities, they would take you up one level and no more. And so he referenced it to sports, and he was like, if you're playing high school football and you're afraid you can't hang, or you want to make it to playing college ball, then if you choose, you use steroids then, and you get to college ball, and maybe once you get there, maybe you won't be able to hang because you had to use that ace card to get there. So you got there, but the kind of work that you put in, or the kind of genetics that you have been dealt, may not. They may just result in you getting spit out of playing football at the college level. But if you're at the college level and you made it to the college level without anything, and then you use your ace card to play pro ball, and then maybe you'll get spit out because you can't hang there. You only use it to get to the combine, the NFL combine, or go past the combine. But then there are the people who can get that far without using anything, and they may use it once they're already in the pros, and maybe they'll have like a career-threatening injury or something happen, and then they use steroids to bring them back and extend their career like 10 years or something like that. And what he was saying was basically it's just your choice of when you want to throw down that card, because that's going to be like the end or the peak most likely, especially if you have the devotion to already have your training and diet and discipline and all these different factors already dialed in. I had 6 weeks in the cast, and it happened right at the end of school,